Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? I think I sent Lee the wrong text. Okay. This is supposed to be the one where the school of prophets and the servant was chopping the tree down and the axe head fell in the Jordan River. But that's okay. That's a good one. All right. How many of you can raise your hand if you want to or not, but how many of you have tried to do something impossible or attempt to do something impossible that you weren't able to do and you gave up on it? I see a few hands out there. I'm sure some of us have in our lifetime. All right, how many of you remember Evel Knievel? I'm sure a lot of you have. He became famous for always attempting to do the impossible. One time he successfully jumped a motorcycle over 14 Greyhound buses. Won't see me doing that. Not all of his attempts went as hoped, however. His attempt to jump the Snake River Canyon near Twin Falls, Idaho, ended badly when his parachute deployed prematurely, causing him to miss his goal. In that attempt, he ended up bruised and battered with a broken nose. In his lifetime, he broke 433 bones, which did finally land him in the Guinness Book of World Records. That's not exactly how I would want to get in there, breaking that many bones, but whatever, I guess, some people. God had many opportunities to do the impossible during the journey of his people to the promised land. At one point in Exodus 17, Moses is called to speak to a rock, then strike it with a rod to produce water. However, we see later in Numbers 20:11, when out of frustration, Moses attempted to get the same results without God. God did give the people water, but Moses was not allowed to enter the promised land because he acted in disobedience to God. I'm not sure I've seen water come out of a rock before. I've seen it go over rocks, around rocks, underneath rocks, but not out of a rock. In Joshua 10:12, it says, at that time Joshua spoke to the Lord in the day when the Lord gave the Amorites over to the sons of Israel, and he said in the sight of Israel, sun, stand still at Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Ajalon. Later in verse 14, we are told that there has been no day like it before or since, when the Lord heeded the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel. I'm looking forward to learning in heaven about how this affected gravity. How can you did God stop the world from turning? And if so, what happened to gravity? Did we all just go flying off the planet? We're not told, but it'd be interesting to find out. If we go to chapter 3 in Daniel, we see another example of God performing the impossible when Daniel's three friends remained faithful to God and refused to bow to the golden image. As punishment, they were thrown into the fiery furnace that burned so hot that the soldiers who threw them in were killed by the heat. Yet we see them standing in the fire having a conversation with Jesus. No way could that have happened by human power. That would have been interesting to see, for sure. The New Testament is also filled with examples of a God not limited by the impossible. John 2:1-11 relates the first miracle of Jesus in his ministry on earth. Not only did he turn water to wine, but it was sweeter than the wine that had been being served. Um, our last example, we find in Matthew 14:25 to 31. The disciples are crossing the Red Sea when they found their boat being beaten by the waves because the wind was against them. As they looked out into the rough sea, they saw Jesus walking on the water toward them. Peter even challenged him, saying, "Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you on the water." I mean, who else other than God can accomplish such impossible things? I know when I tried to walk on water, guess what happened? I sank. I didn't walk. No matter how fast I ran into the water, it still sank. So, the Bible, God being able to do what man thought was impossible. So how does this relate to us? Being changed to be like Jesus? From these examples, do we find the humans involved with each story, working the miracles under their own power? Or must there be another way for us to be changed in preparation for heaven? In Zechariah 3:3-5, I believe we find the answer to this question. We find ourselves witnessing Joshua the high priest, hearing as Satan listed his many shortcomings and sins. These are represented by the filthy clothes he was wearing. We already know that if he had simply gone to his closet and put on a clean robe, he still would be wearing filthy rags. The only way he could be made clean was for Jesus to remove the filthy clothing and replace it with his righteousness. In Acts chapter 9, we see how God was able to change Saul, who had been killing Christians, and convert him into Paul, who would be instrumental in growing the Christian faith and witnessing how God was able to change him. Brothers and sisters, God has been doing what is impossible for men since the beginning, and he is more than willing to do the impossible in each of our lives. He doesn't require us to do anything ourselves except to present ourselves before him and be willing to allow him to create a new heart within us. I pray each of you will join me in daily going to God and present ourselves. Then we can see what amazing things God has in store for us. Unlike Evel Knievel, who by depending on his own abilities and maybe a bit of luck, breaking nearly every bone in his body trying to accomplish the impossible. We can call upon Jesus and be assured that he is more than able to place a new heart within us. And I know that when Joshua led the children of Israel into Canaan, they had to cross the Jordan River. I don't remember God saying, okay, well, build a bridge over the river. No, God did another impossible again like he did at the Red Sea. He parted the waters so they could pass through. I did a little research, and the Jordan River is 100 feet wide, and it's like a few inches to several feet. I mean, I could walk across the Jordan River without drowning, unless I fall in. But God parted the water there too. And he can change us. I mean, how many times have you tried to change someone else? Especially when you get married and you see something in your spouse that you don't like and you try to change them. It doesn't work very well, does it? It's impossible. But God can do the changing. And I know in my own life, I was hit by a car when I was 8 years old. August 1968. I should have been dead. I lost my right kidney, damaged my lower back. My aorta was 80% severed. And I had a closed head injury. I was told that I made medical history, but God was the one that made medical history, not me. And I'm alive today to tell about it. And there's a lot of other details in there, but I should have been dead. There was 2 nurses in the car that hit me. And I don't know what they did after that point, because I was knocked out. I don't remember anything for several weeks. But I am very thankful that God did the impossible in my life by using medical technology at that time to save me. I have the scars to prove it. And I'm sure my wife is happy that I'm still here. Sorry, my sermon's short, but that's what I have to offer. Because we have a God that's able to do anything he wants. Nothing's impossible with him. And I'm just very thankful for that. And he knows what's best for us, and sometimes he makes things a little bit impossible to get our attention before we come to him for him to help us and ask for help. I think our closing hymn is in the hymnal on page 111.